Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Fanatic, and today we're taking a look at Aegis Defenders, a puzzle platformer and action tower defense game by Guts Department. In Aegis Defenders, you'll take on the role of a young human and her grandfather, I'm sorry, that's the last time I let autocorrect spell check my scripts. Blue and her grandfather Bart are wanderers in a land under constant threat by the Indra Empire, spending most of their days searching around ruins for ancient technology that they can sell off to eke out a living. Most stages will consist of two phases: a puzzle platforming phase where you'll have to traverse locales to get to your destination, and a tower defense phase where you'll need to protect some sort of location from enemies. The platforming segments definitely have a large number of puzzle elements. Locked doors with switches you'll need to figure out how to hit, torches you'll need to light, and sometimes even enemies you'll need to manipulate in some way to press forward. There's always hidden collectibles in a stage, most of which tend to be in the platforming segment. Most of these are artifacts which will grant you Rune Hunter points, more on that in a little bit. But each level also has a single base heart hidden within it, which will let your charge take one more hit at the end of the level. Each character has two weapons you can switch between on the fly. For example, Blue's standard weapon is a rifle that shoots blue shots straight forward, while her secondary weapon is a bow that fires red arrows with a downward arc to them. When attacking enemies that match your weapon's color, you'll deal bonus damage. For the tower defense segments, you'll generally have enemies coming from both sides while you defend the center from them. You'll have 60 seconds before each wave of enemies to harvest resources and prepare, although you can end these phases early to get a bit of extra money if you don't need the time. You'll have a total of 4 characters as the game goes on, each with their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Each character is capable of creating blocks of a certain color. Blue creates blue weapons which tend to be stationary traps. For example, a single blue block will be a mine, which does as you would expect and detonates when an enemy comes into contact with it, dealing heavy damage to the target. However, all blocks can be fused with another block to form something new. For example, fuse 2 blue blocks and instead of mines, you'll have a carpet of spikes which will slowly damage enemies as they walk over them. Bart creates yellow blocks which do nothing but impede your foe's progress until they're upgraded, but can combine with red, blue, or yellow blocks to make powerful turrets which will assail foes at a distance. He also carries a yellow hammer that can repair damage blocks, as well as a blue shovel that instantly harvests any resource it hits, rather than needing 3 attacks like other weapons. Kaim is a monk who is able to draw resources in toward himself from a distance, and carries a pair of staves that either shoot out red fireballs or surrounds himself with purple shards that slash anything that gets close. His standard blocks are torches which impede enemy progress and enhance any friendly shot that goes through them with fire, allowing them to deal extra damage and counting as red shots in addition to whatever colors they already have. Finally, you have Zula. Her towers have the least direct combat capability. With purple traps that will slow enemies, your combinations allowing you to create these resource generators, they're able to slowly give you a bit more to work with. She carries a purple shuriken that returns after being thrown, dealing heavy damage to anything caught on the return path, as well as a yellow bomb that can hit large numbers of enemies if they clump together. It's important to remember that your characters and their weapons are quite powerful when used properly. If you neglect either their towers or their weapons, you're likely to have a difficult time going through battle. In addition to your standard stages, there's also a handful of escort missions. In a game where most of your defenses are stationary, it should come as little surprise that these are often regarded as the hardest levels in the game. You'll need to constantly move forward while trying to impede your foes, and it's every bit as difficult as it sounds. After each stage, you'll have a camp where you'll be able to save and upgrade your equipment. During each stage, you'll be able to collect credits strewn throughout. You'll also have an opportunity to gain Rune Hunter points by collecting the aforesaid artifacts, as well as a small bonus by giving proper answers when prompted in dialogue choices. What are the proper answers? Yeah, good luck figuring that out. It's a small thing, but it's quite annoying. The only real way to get answers are trial and error or looking it up in a guide. Regardless, you'll also have the opportunity to gain additional rewards by having a stellar defense at the end of the stage. If your charge takes no hits, or if you've collected the extra base heart and only take 1 hit, you'll achieve these optional goals. This results in more credits or Rune Hunter points. When at camp, you can speak to Amber to buy and upgrade new weapons, or to Kaim to purchase various other upgrades with credits. Meanwhile, you'll be able to speak with Bart to upgrade your towers with the use of those Rune Hunter points. If you're thorough, you'll have enough credits to get everything they can buy, but not enough Rune Hunter points, so think carefully about which towers you use the most. Also of note is that you have 3 guest characters that show up from other games. Their appearance is pretty much hand-waved, but if you're a fan of Shovel Knight, Awesomenauts, or Time Spinner, you'll likely appreciate seeing them there along with the unique levels that they offer, each inspired by their respective games. Each one will allow you to earn a powerful weapon, and 2 of them will also give alternate skins to Clu and Bart, allowing them to dress as Lunias and Shovel Knight respectively. And on one final note about gameplay, I should mention that Aegis Defenders is designed first and foremost as a game for 2 players working together cooperatively via local split-screen multiplayer. The game does feel rather difficult as a single-player experience, but I did manage to 100% the game on hard mode, though certainly not without replaying those escort missions several times in the process. You can swap between characters freely, and although the AI won't do much, they will stand in place and use their basic weapons if enemies get within range. It's certainly not much, but the positioning of characters you're not using can absolutely be the difference between merely winning and pulling off that perfect defense. Presentation-wise, the game is quite solid. Characters and environments alike have wonderfully detailed sprite work, though I do feel characters would have benefited from having more animation frames. Story-wise, the game has some fun ideas and world building. You'll also occasionally get these narrative sequences which use a different art style to give an almost dreamlike presentation, and it looks great. But in the end, it feels like it leaves too many things unanswered and ends a little abruptly. To go into more detail, I'll need to head into spoiler territory. And now we come to the part of the review where we'll be discussing the plot. If you wish to avoid spoilers, please skip ahead to the time coordinates indicated on screen. Initiate temporal distortion now. Still with me? Then don't say I didn't warn you. In the world of Aegis Defenders, humanity was recently ruled by beings known as the Deathless, mechanical creatures revered as deities, each leading their own nation of people in their own way. As aforementioned, the story begins with Clu and Bart simply making a living by selling ancient technology found in ruins. Before you get too far into the story, they come across a small robot known as a Kobo that is very insistent about reactivating its master. Curious as to what sort of machine Kobo might be speaking of, they decide to let it lead the way, where it eventually takes them to a massive entity mostly buried underneath the ground known as the Aegis. Bart warns that they should activate in order to prevent the Indra Empire from finding and being able to use it for their own purposes, but it needs a major power source in order to fully reactivate. Kobo then informs them that it detects a sufficient power source in Indra territory, and after some hesitance and deliberation, our heroes decide to make their way there. We continue to see more of these narrative sequences, which reveal to us that Hosei, the founder and emperor of the Indra, was once a priest of a ruthless deathless named Shem. After being banished, he marched the wastelands and found a weapon known as the Clarent that could kill the supposedly immortal beings that ruled over humanity. But it wasn't just Shem that Hosei wrought his vengeance upon. Before long, he attacked Vera, another deathless whose followers were treated far more kindly, and thus resisted Hosei's rule. As a result, he slaughtered them all with the Clarent. Before long, we learn that the narrator of these sequences is none other than Bart, who is also Hosei's brother. After refusing to kill the priest of a deathless known as Kanzeon, he goes into an exile of his own, unable to excuse the tyrant that his brother has become. The group journeys along, with Clu occasionally hearing these strange voices. Eventually, the heroes meet Cain, a monk that once served the aforementioned Kanzeon and is now working against the Empire by sabotaging poison-spewing devices that make the animals in their regions far more aggressive than usual. Before long, he decides to journey with the group, figuring that anything that impedes the Indra means their goals align. After shutting down the mulberry gas devices, they come to the corpse of Kanzeon, which is being used to power the machine. What's more, Kobo informs them that within her remains is a power source needed to reactivate the Aegis. With a heavy heart, Cain decides that it's what she would have wanted and aids Clu and Bart in extracting what is known as an Ichor core from her, Kobo storing it away to reactivate the Aegis. But before they have a chance to return, massive amounts of mulberry have attracted a behemoth known as a queen snowfly, forcing them to beat a hasty retreat. Unfortunately, they're unable to escape, and the best they can do is make a crash landing in the desert, where bandits soon take Kobo without knowing what the little machine is storing away. Before long, it's revealed that the bandits are led by none other than Zula, a former princess whose nation was ravaged by the Indra, and also a former love interest to Cain, which for some reason Clu seems to think it's appropriate to constantly pester him about for details. Nevertheless, they attempt to rescue Kobo from the bandits, only to have the Indra attack in the middle of things, demanding that the bandits pay them tribute. In an attempt to barter for the lives of her people, Zula offers up Kobo. In his ruthlessness, Hosei decides to also take Zula's younger sister, Shreya, captive as well. With her band of thieves unwilling to risk their lives attacking Indra to rescue Shreya, Zula begrudgingly joins the heroes who reveal why it was so dangerous to let Kobo fall into Hosei's hands. After rescuing the younger princess, the group use a massive burrowing machine to travel beneath the Indra capital, emerging where Kobo is being kept, right beside the Claren. And this is where the dam bursts, as Hosei reveals that Clue is not Bart's biological grandchild and that her parents didn't actually die in the Crusades. Rather, she's a part of the Claren and is capable of controlling it telepathically. According to Hosei, the voices she's been hearing are from the Claren, meant to imprint the memories of an ancient pilot upon her mind so she could serve as the machine's core. The group fight as hard as they can to escape Hosei's clutches, but with seemingly infinite resources, there's nothing they can do to stop his perpetual march of soldiers. In a desperate gambit, Clue offers herself as prisoner if Hosei will let the others go free. Hosei agrees, but of course, this just means that the others have to plan another rescue mission. When finally Bart and the others reach Clue, he finally tells her everything he knows. In an effort to defy his brother, he sought to destroy the Claren's core, only to find Clue trapped inside as a babe. He took her into exile with him and raised her as though she were his granddaughter, keeping the truth from her for all these years. But as Clue rejoins the group, she comes to a realization. The voices she hears are not from the Claren, but cries of help coming from the Aegis. It's then that she realizes that the Aegis must similarly be piloted by a human core in the same manner, and that they have to free him before Hosei can take control of it. After that, you have a massive final battle with 10 waves of defending the Aegis from monsters and soldiers alike, with the Aegis even being partially operational for the final few waves, allowing you to activate it to use a massive laser to destroy all nearby enemies. Once fully operational, the Aegis takes Hosei into one of its hands and simply traps him there, with its pilot, whom takes the name Aeon at Bart's suggestion, escaping to live free. The game's story runs over the course of 18 levels in total. I feel there's some really good ideas here, however, at the same time, I feel it's quite rushed. It feels as though they wanted to tell a longer tale, and some important things are never really addressed. First and foremost, the Deathless. It's made clear from dialogue that they are not gods at all, but rather machines. Who built them, and why? How did they come to rule over humanity? What of the Aegis and the Claren? It seems to be implied that they're even older still than the Deathless, but again, we have no idea who built them or for what purpose. Nor do we know why their weapons could kill the Deathless while nothing else was able to. And on one final note, there's the ending where they just leave Hosei to die. They act like this is some sort of act of mercy, which you can debate the merits of either way, but regardless of that matter, they leave him trapped in the now deactivated Aegis' hand. He's going to die of thirst, if not from exposure to the elements within days, and whatever your thoughts of executing someone for their crimes may be, that's a much crueler death than simply shooting him. Welcome back, Chrononauts. You're just in time to join us for the conclusion. All in all, Aegis Defenders is an intriguing blend of genres. It does a really good job of mixing the platformer and tower defense segments into a coherent whole. Its fast-paced gameplay rarely felt dull. Each character was useful in their own way, and while towers didn't feel like anything particularly innovative, they still served a number of different purposes. Jumping does feel like it takes a little getting used to, especially since a bug kills your momentum if you hit up in the middle of your jumps. But that aside, gameplay was a blast. The story I have mixed feelings about. It really does feel like there's some good world building and a fun sci-fi plot underneath everything, but it certainly felt like the writers needed more time to tell the tale they wanted. The game is simply too short for the narrative they were trying to weave. This leaves it feeling rushed and unfinished, which really is a pity, as I do see the signs of a fun and captivating narrative that was simply never fully realized. Aegis Defenders took me about 12 hours to go through in the end, though a good portion of that was replaying those dreaded escort missions in an attempt to clear all the goals. If you're a fan of action tower defense games, or you just want something different, definitely consider giving this one a try. In conclusion, I find Aegis Defenders to be worthy of a respectable 8.3 out of 10. Aegis Defenders is currently available for PC via Steam and GOG, as well as for the Nintendo Switch and Sony PlayStation 4. If you're interested in purchasing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Aegis? What tower defense hybrids do you enjoy? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. And please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. And if you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.